Good morning, and welcome to our worship service. We're glad that you joined us today. As of today, masking is optional. While masks are optional now, we all know that they may not stay optional if cases begin to climb again. We will always welcome those that have to mask or want to mask because being unmasked is too risky. We will start serving coffee again soon. If you want to be on the coffee crew, please sign up in the lobby. Now, I would ask you to open your minds and silence your cell phone for our time together. Our chalice lighting this morning is On the Cusp of a New Day by Patrice K. Curtis. Divine Universe, here I stand on the cusp of a new day. All may seem the same at first, a simple continuum of the day before. I do not know what this day will bring me. Yet what I do know, I am one day older. I am one day closer to that final breath. May I carry within me, then, times of quiet so that I may feel the pulse of my connection to all beings, that I may hear the whisper of earth in my bones, May I use my hands, head, and heart in service to heal hurt and to spread light. Now let us sing together our opening hymn, "'Tis a Gift to be Simple." The words will be on the screen. The music can be found in a gray hymnal number 16.
Please stand as you wish.
Sorry.
'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and in light. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed to turn. We'll be our delight till by turning we come round right. Thank you. Please be seated.
Good morning. If anyone would like to join me up here for our story right now, I would love to have you. There is room right up here in the front row if you don't want to sit on the floor, or you can come on up. Come on, come on. Oh, my goodness. Yes, please. What would I do without you? We would be quiet. That's what we would be. Welcome, everyone. It's so good to see you this morning. We're small but mighty, so that's okay. It's kind of a dreary day out there. So for some of our friends and neighbors right now, yesterday was the start of a holy month. The crescent moon first became visible last night. Do you know what the crescent moon is? Anybody want to share? What's the crescent moon? Anyone? Okay, the crescent moon is when it looks like like a C, okay? But sometimes it's a really skinny little C, and then it gets bigger, right? And then it goes to a full moon, and then it goes to a crescent moon on the other side. So the beginning of the month, we get to see a crescent moon, and that is the start of a holy holiday for the people who are Muslim, and it is called Ramadan, and it goes for a whole month. And it ends May 1st, May 2nd, something like that. And the people who are Muslim, they practice a religion called Islam. And during the month of Ramadan, they go from sunrise till sunset fasting. Who knows what fasting is? Benjamin.
Not eating for a while.
Not eating, right, and not drinking. Right, and they do that every day for a month. So they eat breakfast, and then they go all day, and then they do what's called breaking their fast when the sun goes down. And a lot of people who are Muslim choose to have a special treat before they have their dinner. So on that note, let's open our Wonder Box. Let's see. Elliot, would you like to open the Wonder Box? What do you see? I'll hold the lid. You get that one first? Okay.
I see a book.
A book? Yeah, hold that book up. Show everybody. That book is called the Quran. So that is the holy book for the people who are Muslim.
I see like a plate with some like stuff that's like gold colored.
Mm-hmm.
And some things on it.
Some things on the plate. What do you think those are? Does anybody know? Olivia?
They're dates.
Dates. Okay. Do I see? All right, we'll put those right there, and this right here. So when the Muslims give up food and drink for the day, for a whole day, they kind of try to liberate themselves from all the material world stuff. Give them something else they don't have to think about food. When you don't have to figure out what you're going to have, right, and the time you don't have to spend to eat it, it gives you time to focus, and they can study, they read the Quran, they pray, and they still go to work and go to school. They have to do all the things, right? So the reason some people choose to break their fast by having a date right here is because that's what supposedly the Prophet Muhammad had when he broke his fast. And so they thought that was important. And 3 dates is common. I don't know why 3 dates, but 3 dates is common, okay? And so during this time, they're making space for what matters to them the most, and food sometimes takes up too much time and energy, right? Okay. So there is, can you all put up a slide? The next slide, please. There, right there. So that is someone I know, Reverend Ranwa Hamani, and they are a Unitarian Universalist minister, and they are also a Muslim. And they shared some words about why Ramadan was special to them, and I asked them if I could share those words with you, and they said yes, so that's what I'm going to do. So they said, many of us probably know that Ramadan is a holy month within the Islamic traditions. Muslims, many Muslims, among other things, do not eat or drink from sunrise until sunset. One of my earliest memories from Ramadan comes from when I was about 9 or 10 years old. I had already started fasting, because some kids, small children don't always fast. They wait till they get a little older. So they said they had already started fasting, and they thought they were doing a pretty good job of staying away from food and drink. And then one day when they were at school, the teacher came by with a tray of cupcakes. And as everyone who knows me, Ranwa says, I love sweets. And before I could even think about it, I took a cupcake and took a giant bite. And then a few seconds later, I realized what I had done, and I was mortified. I ran to the bathroom crying, and I desperately tried to rinse out every last crumb of cupcake and icing from my mouth. I was so upset. I kept thinking that my parents were going to be upset with me and that God was going to be angry with me. I felt like I had failed them, and so I decided I would do everything I could to never fail them again. So I took some pretty drastic measures. Ranwa says they had headgear at the time. You all might not know what headgear is, but do you know what headgear is? Some people who have braces have to wear a wire on the outside. I don't even know if they still do that, but it hooks to your teeth. Makes it a little hard to eat. So Ranwa decided to wear their headgear all day, every day at school. And that way they never forgot their Ramadan or their obligation to observe the fast. And basically, they wanted to be mindful of being a Muslim, they said, I guess in a weird, warped way, I had developed a mindfulness practice as a child by wearing headgear. Well, it's been a few years since grade school, and things have changed. As a kid, the God that I knew was kind of like that angry person who watched over your every mood. But today, as an adult, the God that I know, or rather the God that knows me, the God that I strive to remember every day, sounds more like this. We have created humanity, and we know that your soul whispers to you. We are closer to you than your jugular vein. This line from the Quran is just such a really intimate description of God. Ranwa uses the divine as a word for the God, so you might hear that in here. God the divine is a strong presence that remains close to us, that creates and recreates with us in every single moment. It knows us as what we truly are, even in those moments when we're not at our best. It knows us as beings with an immense ability for love and goodness. God the divine is with me when I am teaching in a classroom or when I am protesting in the streets. The divine still knows me when I am making really bad assumptions and really bad decisions. This divine knows all of our potential and knows what our limits are too. It knows what we strive for, and it knows where we struggle, and it remains a force in our life without even having to ask for it. So, now that I think differently about God, I also think differently about Ramadan. Now Ramadan's a time to be grateful, a time to honor all of the things and the gifts in my life. Some Muslims use the month to read the entire Quran. Some people devote their lives during the month to doing regular service for others and regular prayer. It's an opportunity to be more present and more thankful about the gifts of life that I have, and to be aware of all of the gifts of life that a lot of other people don't have through no fault of their own. So now maybe someday, if I ever time travel back to that 9 and 10-year-old little girl, I'm going to visit her and I'm going to find her in the bathroom and I'm going to tell her that God is not angry with you. God is smiling at you because you're human. And God is always loving you and always trying to support you because you are you. And God will always be helping you, whether or not you choose to try again if you make a mistake. So that, I thought, was a nice, that's someone who's a Unitarian Universalist who still has a faith of a Muslim, and I like to hear how they think differently now than they did when they were a child, so, and what it means to them. Thanks for listening to that story. We're going to check out some dates later in our rooms, so look forward to that. And would someone, let's see, I'm going to give this to, will you carry that back to your classroom? Okay. And will you carry that back? Thank you. And we can sing the children out.
I have to bring the microphone back.
Oh.
Oh, in love, our hearts go with you. Oh, in joy, our hopes go too. Learn in love and grow in wisdom. Shine your light in all you do.
Let us take a moment. Let us center ourselves. Let us get into the space of sharing with each other. Now is the time where we share the joys and sorrows of our community. And we have our new joys and sorrows table. Now, I'll double check in case somebody popped one in there when I wasn't looking. But you are encouraged before service to put a joy or sorrow in this box. I've got some pens and paper, write it down. A lot of these are things that we don't want people to see, so you can fold it up, put it in, and I'll grab it before service starts. One of the things that we love about our community is our sacred sharing. It's the sacred trust we have of each other. One of the things we love is the ability we have to lift each other up in times of joy and in times of grief. And know that if I never receive another joy or sorrow again, which I would like to receive them, but if I never receive one again, I know that it's not because you don't care for each other. I know it's not because you don't want to share your joys. You don't want to share your sorrows. That you already know deep within that you are here for each other. May we always be the people we look for. Now, let us sing our sanctuary song.
Open my heart to be a sanctuary, all made holy, loved and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you.
Please join me in the spirit of meditation and prayer. Spirit of life, fount of wisdom and fairness and mercy, joy that resides within each heart. We hold in our hearts all of those in our community today. For today we take a brave step. Today, many of us take off our masks. It has been 2 years. 2 years of fear and anxiety. 2 years of isolation. And while some of us are thrilled to be rid of those things, some of us need them. May we hold in our hearts those who wear the mask, those who brave coming into this space, whether they wear the mask because it eases their heart or because of their immunocondition. We welcome you. We hold you in our hearts. We will do what we can to make you comfortable in this place. We hold in our hearts still all of those who struggle in Ukraine, all of the fighting and all of the invasion that goes on in one's home. We celebrate their tenacity and we mourn their losses, and we pray for wisdom of those who lead. And lastly, we hold hope. For even though there was snow this week, there was a day of 70 degrees. Even though there will be times where it snows and sleets in April, we know the sun is coming. We have seen the warmth. Some of us have even worn short sleeves. Let us celebrate the sunshine that is here and that will be here. Let us get ready to dig in our gardens. Let us get ready to get our hands dirty and to make this world a beautiful and colorful place again. May it be so. Blessed be.
Our commitment to this community is spiritual in its essence. Yet we are physical beings also. Our bodies and our minds require the support of our finances and our skills to make this a place of growth, practice, and nurturing. People contribute financially to our fellowship in a variety of ways. This morning and throughout the month of April, donations that are not designated for another purpose will be split with the breakfast program at Trinity United Church of Christ. In grateful appreciation of our shared hopes and dreams, the morning offering will now be received. Please join me in this unison reading. The words are on the screen. Let us be grateful when we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful for those who share our gifts with us, for we are enriched by their giving. Let us be grateful even for our needs, so that we may learn from the generosity of others. This morning, our reading is Set in Stone by Victoria Safford. In a cemetery once, an old one in New England, I found a strangely soothing epitaph. The name of the deceased and her dates had been scoured away by wind and rain, but there was a carving of a tree with roots and branches, a classic 19th century motif. And among them the words, quote, "She attended well and faithfully to a few worthy things," unquote. At first, this seemed to me a little meager, a little stingy on the part of her survivors. But I wrote it down and have thought about it since. And now I can't imagine a more proud or satisfying legacy. She attended well and faithfully to a few worthy things. Every day, I stand in danger of being struck by lightning and having the obituary in the local paper say, for all the world to see, quote, "She attended frantically and ineffectually to a great many unimportant, meaningless details." How do you want your obituary to read? "He got all the dishes washed and dried before playing with his children in the evening." That's not so bad. "She balanced her checkbook with meticulous precision and never missed a day of work. Missed a lot of sunsets, missed a lot of love, missed a lot of risk, missed a lot. But her money was in order. She answered all her calls, all her email, all her voicemail, but along the way, she forgot to answer the call to service and compassion and forgiveness, first and foremost of herself. He gave and forgave sparingly, without radical intention, without passion or conviction." And this last one, "She could not or would not hear the calling of her heart." How will it read? How does it read? And if you had to name a few worthy things to which you attend well and faithfully, what, I wonder, would they be?
So I'm going to assume by the laughter that the line, "She attended frantically and ineffectually to a great many unimportant, meaningless details," struck a chord for some of you. I was talking with Tim earlier, just before the service, and he asked me, "How was your week?" And I was like, "It was busy, and I can't tell you what I did. I know I did something, but I don't know what, but I know it needed to be done." How many of you have those weeks? You know you were busy, right? How many of you are exhausted by 7 p.m. and if I ask you why you're tired, you're going to go, "I know I did something today." How often does this happen? And I can tell you this, I swear, only I'm judging by my own experiences, but I'm assuming this happens at every walk of life, right? I mean, when I was working in retail, I was exhausted at the end of the day, but that's retail. I expected that, right? When I was working in customer service, sitting down in a cushy chair for 8 hours a day and dealing with stressful people over the phone, I was still exhausted at the end of the day, right? When I was a wedding photographer, I was definitely exhausted. Do you know that as a minister, I'm exhausted sometimes? It's true. I ask my kids, right? How many of you think high school was like the most relaxing, easy thing in the world? Right? Yeah, say that to my daughter or my son and I will get smacked. And I haven't been retired yet, but how many of you who are retired don't have days where you're exhausted at the end of the day? How many of you, when you're retired, all right, you. I'm telling you, right? But how many of you still lead the retired life and still find your schedules crammed? Yeah. I know my wife was always busy when she was a teacher. I swear teachers work 8 days a week, right? We do. We're doers. We spend our life doing. Do you realize we occupy our time so much with doing that is what we surround our identities with, right? What do you do? What's your job? Me, I'm a teacher. I'm a scientist. I'm a cashier. Everything we do becomes who we are. And sometimes it seems that that's all we are. Now, I am not saying that productivity is not important. I'm not saying that doing isn't important. We need to do. Doing keeps society moving. Doing makes us grow. Doing makes life interesting, right? But here's the trick. The trick with doing is not becoming what you do, or at least not only what you do. Doing is important, but doing cannot take over all of your life. Now, this past Friday, as Jenny was saying, started the holy month of Ramadan. Right? We had a little brief synopsis of it. Holiest of the Muslim holidays. Yes? Yes, it marks when the Quran was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad. And it is observed by fasting for 30 days from sunup to sunset. No food, no drink, right? And during that month of fasting, Muslims are encouraged to pray, to meditate, to read the Holy Scripture, and engage in self-reflection. And then what do they do at the end of the month? Big party. Big party. Eid al-Fitr. Huge celebration. You have food, games, kids get new outfits, whole 9 yards, right? I love it. But what I love is that this is a theme in the Abrahamic religions. Fasting. Right? How many of you know what the fasting holiday in the Jewish tradition is? Anybody? Anybody? Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. For Yom Kippur, you are supposed to fast the entire day. The 10 days before Yom Kippur are the days of awe, started with Rosh Hashanah, where the Jewish New Year, and then after that you think about all you have wronged over the last year. And then what do? Well, no. What do you do after you think about who you've wronged? You apologize. Ooh. How many of you ever gotten an apology during the days of awe? No, I haven't either. So I'm assuming my Jewish friends have been nice to me. So that's what I'm assuming. All right. So that's the one in our Jewish tradition. What is our fasting holiday in Christianity? Lent, the day where Catholics eat fish. So let me tell you a story about Lent. Right, all right, so Lent starts off. How to start this? Okay. Do not take pity on me for this next sentence. I went to a Catholic boys' school for high school. I heard an awe in there. All right, don't take pity. I actually really enjoyed it. I really did. It was a great experience. But one of the things that happened was you have a theology class every year. And so the teacher is talking to us about Lent. And he's like, what do you do for Lent? And we're sophomores at the time. We're like, oh. He's like, so let me tell you a Lent story. There's this family for Lent. They have a tradition. Every Friday during the whole year, they go out to eat at McDonald's. They get McDonald's every Friday. But now it's Lent. What can you not do on Friday during Lent? Eat meat. So what do they do instead? They go to Red Lobster. Right? And the teacher's like, what's wrong with this story? And we're like, I don't know, there's cheddar biscuits involved. What's wrong with this story? Lent is supposed to be a time of austerity, a time where you deny yourself something, right? How many of you, former Catholics, gave up chocolate for Lent? That's the typical one, right? Sodas, sugars, sweets, all of that, right? Lent is the time where you're supposed to be denying yourself of something, and you're supposed to reflect on it. You're supposed to meditate on it. You're supposed to read the scriptures about it. And you're supposed to increase your giving to the poor during Lent. You'll notice all of these three things have some very common themes, right? We are getting rid of something, we are meditating on something, and we are doing something. And let me tell you why that second part, that meditating, that reflecting, is the most important part. Because when you fast without meditation, all you are doing is just starving yourself. Ritual without purpose is hollow. So one of the things we have to remember in these times is there is a reason and a purpose to this ritual. So what's the reason and the purpose to denying yourself something, right? How many other holidays do just the opposite? So many of our holidays and traditions, we are adding things on, making things more complicated, doing the rush. I am looking at you, Christmas. So many holidays, we get overwhelmed. And these are holidays we were telling ourselves to take something away and to think about what that leaves in its place. Let me give you a good example of a practice of this and how it led to something that was a little bit more introspective. I'm going to borrow my wife's friend from when she was a teacher. When my wife taught special ed, she had a teacher's aide who was a very devout, conservative Christian. She was a sweetheart. She was a wonderful person. She was absolutely delightful to get along with. She did not judge you for what you believed, but she did tell you about her practices. And she was not ashamed about that. Personally, if that's how you're going to live your religion, I'm for it. I want everybody to tell me about their religion. I just don't want you to make me have to do it. And she told Wendy that she and her husband had decided for the last few months to start tithing. How many of you know what tithing is? All right, most of you. How many of you tithe? Uh-huh. It's okay. It's okay. So she decided to start tithing. Now, how many of you know that a teacher's aides do not make a lot of money? Right? Right? And her husband wasn't exactly what I would call well off either. So my wife very logically said, "You're tithing? Isn't that going to make things hard on you?" And her friend said, "It's the strangest thing. We have more money now. It's like we have more money. Things have been easier. The Lord has provided for us." Now, I'm not one to step on a miracle. But I heard that and I'm like, okay, the Lord has provided for you. I do not think there is a heavenly cashier who is putting deposit slips into your bank. But I think that when you make yourself be intentional about your money, when you're looking at it that much more carefully, what are the odds you're making better decisions with it? What are the odds you're thinking about it more, seeing how important it is, and maybe refocusing? One of the beautiful things about these austere traditions is by taking away what we encounter every day, we are obliged to appreciate it more if we choose to reflect on it. We can either come to love it for what it truly is or understand it for what it is and maybe find ways to move on in life without it. We get to see how these things inform who we are, how the things we do inform who we are. And instead of becoming all of the things we do and all of the things we have, these are the times of unbecoming, taking away all of the noise and haste in order to ask the questions. Who am I? Who am I? So we know that one of the big things we talk about with these holidays is getting rid of something, the fasting aspect. We've got the reflection aspect. Now we've got the action, right? How many of you know the 5 pillars of Islam? These are my UU peeps. I love them. One of the huge pillars of Islam is charity. Absolutely huge, right? And so the Muslims during Ramadan, the holiest of holidays, increase their charitable giving. No surprise, if the Catholics are doing it, the Muslims are going to be doing it too. They have food banks. They increase their food bank drives during Ramadan. The one thing they're not allowed to have, they give to other people, right? As I said before, we have the Day of Atonement. You have to act. You have to find your friends. You have to repent. You have to atone. Saying you're sorry is one thing. Fixing a wrong, atoning, is something different, right? And then we have the Christians who, during Lent, are supposed to increase their giving, be more charitable. Now, we can say the reason this increases is because when you take something away from yourself, you feel what it's like to be without, and you sympathize for those without, and so you give more, right? I want to turn that a little bit. I want to twist that narrative just a little bit. When you have something and you relate it so much to your identity, and you start to take it away, you start to realize you aren't these things. You start to realize you aren't your latte Sunday morning. You start to realize you aren't your cell phone. You start to realize you aren't the glass of wine. You start to realize you don't need the cheddar biscuits from Red Lobster. What you start to realize is that you're more than things. What you start to realize is that you are innate, beautiful star stuff. You are more than the things around you. And when you realize that that's you, you realize that's everybody else. And now you see those people who don't have as people who are worthy of having. They don't need your pity. They need lifted up. It's not that having makes them less. It's that they are less, and so other people see them as less, and they don't get to have. You see them as the beautiful person they are, and you want to lift them up. By understanding that we are not our things, we want to make sure that those people who are less are lifted up for who they are, even though they don't have things. So, do you see why I see these holidays as important? Do you see why I can see the need for this? Do you notice that the UUs don't have one? I think part of it is that there's a really common confusion between the idea of austerity and abstinence, to abstain from, and suffering. That the two are not necessarily the same thing. And I think that sometimes we, in a society that values things, don't want to do things that challenge that, right? But sometimes we need to figure out who we are. Sometimes we need to push things aside and the doing aside and understand what we are, who we are. Let the dirty dishes go. Have an unanswered email. an unbalanced checkbook. These are things. They're not who you are. They will never be who you are. My challenge to you this week is to intentionally remove something from your routine. Maybe you put aside some of your spending money that you would normally spend this week. Find another purpose for it. Send it to Ukraine. Maybe you decide this week that you're going to spend only 80% of your grocery budget on groceries. Maybe you're going to stop eating past noon, or past 4, or in my case, 7. Maybe you forgo the glass of wine each night. It should be something you notice. It should not be easy. It should not be something you can give up like that. You can't say, I'm going to give up shopping at Target. You don't have a Target nearby. It's not that hard to give up, right? Do it for a week, maybe 2. See how it changes you. See how it changes your perspective. See how it changes how you see yourself. And if you can't do that, if you don't have enough to give up or to change, that's okay. That just means you have a harder assignment. I want you to set aside time. Time where you are completely undistracted. No phones, no screens, no people. If you have a cat like mine who insists on getting in your face when you take a moment to sit down, lock him out of the room. Take 15 minutes each day, maybe more, and ask yourself, who am I without what I do? Who am I without a label? What is the most important thing to me? What do I value more than anything? And what am I doing to live into that value? Ask yourself that every day for a week, 2 weeks, in quiet. Sit with it. Get uncomfortable. Write it down. If you never take the time to do nothing, to mull over these questions, to push aside all of the noise and haste, you will never be able to look back and say to yourself, I attended faithfully a few worthy things. That is all we can hope for. That is why we are here. May you find those worthy things, my friend. May it be so. So, let us sing. Please join me in body and spirit as we sing our closing hymn, My Life Goes On in Endless Song. Please rise as you're able in body or spirit. For those with hymnals, it's 108, I believe. Yes.
My life flows on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, though far off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? My life flows on.
The tempest frown.
Something's wrong. Though the darkness round me roars, sauce in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm when Thank you. Please be seated.
Before I give you the benediction, I do want to make one small announcement. At 11:30 this morning, in the far, far reaches of the other side of the building, our humanist meetings, they're having an open house for those of you who are curious about humanism and would like to be drafted to the cause. I encourage you, please, to join them this morning and afternoon. They are a frightfully wonderful bunch of people, and I think that you will enjoy it. Janice is wondering if I meant frightfully bad, and no. Go this week. Be who you are. Take time to just sit. Put aside all of those things that rush you. Put aside all of those things that want to lay claim to who you are. Know that deep down, you are enough. May it be so.